So hello everyone, hi. In this enhanced community quarantine, one thing that I did that I've never done, well, I've done only once before, which is watch Korean drama. So yes, actually, among all my 24 years of life, there's only one Korean drama, or actually one and a half Korean drama that I only watched, and that is The Good Doctor because I really like medical dramas. And then the other one was initially it was a medical drama, but then the story is about this guy. I think he was a doctor and he was in North Korea, and then he was forced to do bad things, unethical things as a doctor because of the North Korean government, and then he was able to escape, and he was set apart from his childhood sweetheart. Then they were looking for each other, but I didn't finish that one. I did finish The Good Doctor though. But there is one that I actually watched just recently that I really, 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 really liked, and it's in the top of Netflix. And I finished it on only 1 day and a half. And yes, there was this one day that I slept in the morning already. And then this other day, from morning until night, I was watching this series until I finished it. I finished it in probably a day and a half, like I said. And I want to share with you guys the things that I learned from this series that I love so much. It's called Itaewon Class. So, disclaimer, guys, there will be some spoilers. So if you guys haven't watched Itaewon, so don't watch this video yet. Um, but yeah, this you can learn so much from Itaewon Class. So the story is a story about. It's so hard to remember their names, but let me go check on the internet their names. Um, Park-siroyi. So Park-siroyi. Forgive me if I'm not like able to pronounce their names correctly, but I guess it will still sound similar. So just what do you call this? Just bear with me. Okay. So Park-siroyi, he's the protagonist of the story. He's the main character, and basically the story is really about just following your principles. Because at the beginning of the story, in the very first episode of the story, Park Saroyi, he got into a mishap in school. Mainly because his classmate in the first day of class, he was a new kid. His classmate's name is Gain Woon. Jung Gain Woon. Forgive me, I'm not Korean. So he's rich. Comes from a very wealthy and affluent family, and he's like a bully. He's a bully to this other kid. I don't know what's his name, but yeah, he was a bully, and then he poured milk on this other kid. And Park Seroyi, he um, he defended the the kid who was bullied, and then he got in trouble. And basically, this story is really about following your principles, and if principles can get you in places in life, because a lot of times they're saying that if masyado kang maprinsipyo, if you have too much principles in life, then you wouldn't be able to succeed, because this life is full of people who don't have these values, and you won't be able to get along with them. So in this movie, you really learn that you can follow your principles and still be successful in life. I want to get into the story because I want you guys to watch the series. So I'm going to share with you guys 10 things that I learned in life lessons that you can learn from the story. But there are so much lessons you can learn from the story, not just these 10 things, but maybe I'll add one or two, depending on how I feel. So number one is, you see it? It's clarity. So Jang Dae-hee, one of the really rich and affluent businessmen, said that, well, in the beginning of the story, he was kind of underestimating Park Seroyi. But later on, he said that because of the clarity that Park Seroyi has, then he can reach his dreams. Imagine this guy. He was like literally the son of someone who works for Jang Dae-hee, and they weren't even rich. They were just like, regular employee. And his dream was to become so wealthy that he can put Jang Dae-hee's business down. Well, actually, I'm telling the story already. So yeah, don't watch this if you want to watch it. And because of that clarity that he had, he was able to do the impossible, the things that, you know, was thought to be impossible. He was able to do it because of the clarity that he had. Let me have a second moral of the story. Have a plan and stick to it. So he had a plan and he stuck to it. His plan was after he goes to jail, he will work 7 years in a shipping vessel, and then he also worked in the construction. And his plan is to like, what do you call it? His plan is to work, save money, put up his own pub, and make it really big, franchise it, and then make it into a publicly traded company. Imagine, from a regular employee, that was his plan. And then to buy the stocks of Jenga company, which he was able to do, and to eventually put the company down. And he did it because he had the plan and he stuck to it. So, second one. And then another one is fear nothing. So this is another lesson that I learned from the story, is fear nothing. So in his pursuit to put Janga's company down, Jang Dae-hee found out his intentions, and because he found out what his intentions were, Jang Dae-hee's goal is to put Park-siroyi down. And he did that by, so whenever Park-siroyi rented a company, a space in Itaewon, then Jang Dae-hee bought the building so that he would not be able to do his business in Itaewon. Apart from that, he did a lot of things that really gave Park-siroyi a hard time to practically do his business. Like, there was a time that he was going to franchise his business. And then there was a very good, attractive deal from JM Holdings. But what actually, the truth is, Jang Dae-hee was behind that. And because of that agreement that was canceled, Park-siroyi had a really, really hard time to stick it up to his investors. But still, he still had this audacity to continue it. I mean, when people go into that kind of problem, a lot of people would have probably given up. They would have been like, shit, this is so hard. I would have just given up. Maybe it's not for me. And maybe, I already achieved a lot, and maybe I shouldn't strive for more. But not Park-siroyi. He did what he needed to do to still, deliver to his investors, to his franchisees. So yeah, fear nothing. No matter how much Jang Dae-hee or your hindrances in your life is, no matter how strong they are, no matter how much you think, shit, this is so hard, I want to give up, don't. Because, gaya nga nang sabi sa, in one of our trainings, how will you expect to succeed in something that you basically let go of? Or in Tagalog, paano ka magsasucceed kung binatawan mo ang isang bagay? So yeah, fear nothing and just keep going. Another one is follow your gut. So follow your instincts. All of us has a higher intelligence, and whenever Park-siroyi has to make a decision, and whenever he's like torn between two decisions, in the series, nagpa-flashback lang yung mga sinabi ng mga other people sa kanya. There's a flashback of the things that make it hard for him to decide. Those memories. And, Park-siroyi would always go up, whether it's in the bridge, and he's just gonna look, and he's just going to like meditate and just look at the horizon, or even on the top of his building. yeah, I think he's not thinking, he's not overthinking. He's just really asking his intuition for the right answer, and most often, his intuition gives him the right answer, if not the best option available. And one thing I learned also from that movie was, so if you're running a company and let's say one of your employees make a wrong decision, you have to step up and take responsibility. The fact that you've given that person authority to make that decision also means that you back up their decision. So if ever they make a decision and that decision didn't turn out well, then you cannot blame. He never blamed his employee. Instead, he just says, don't be hard on yourself. You also made that decision, but I also agreed. I trusted you. So he just supports them. He supports his employees. He never blames his employees. There's so much stuff that you can really learn from Itaewon Class, and I think maybe from other K dramas too. But yeah, another one is be firm with what you want. So there were many times that, like I said, he was having experiencing a lot of troubles in his goals. Um, a lot of enemies wanted to bring him down, and they did a lot of things to make it hard for him, really, really hard for him to reach his goals. But he was still firm with what he was. Sobrang sama or sobrang, what do you call it? Jang Dae-hee, he was so mean to Park-siroyi. It was because, he was annoyed by him. And one of the times that kind of sabotaged Park-siroyi, he sent a flower through his childhood sweetheart named Sua, and this like vase thing says "give up." I don't know the exact words that it said, but it's like kind of like in the long of the word lines of "give up," "know your place." There, know your place. That's what he said. Know your place. Park-siroyi, know your place. Give up like that. But Park-siroyi is like no, 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 no. He has a vision for himself, and his vision for himself is he wants to live a life where he has enough power so that he can stick to his principles, he can stick to his values, and still it would be fair for him. Remember, when he was young, this Jang Dae-hee's family was so um, unjust to him. Practically, these families so rich, the Janga family is so rich, they can buy the law. And this is something that happens everywhere in a lot of countries. Basically, if you're powerful, you can buy the law and just, I'm not saying everyone's doing it. I'm not saying everyone who's powerful is doing it, but I'm saying this is happening. So that's what he wants. He wants to be powerful, not to own the law, but because he wants to make the law just. And that's one thing that's so admirable of Park-siroyi. And another one is, okay, so I'm gonna talk to you about living your life. So remember, live your life. Don't please others. So yes, according to life coaching, pleasing other people and doing things because you believe that other people will be proud of you is basically the thing that you would do that would really cause you to be depressed in life. And that's what happened to Joyiseo, that girl, the smart girl, was 162 IQ, can play sports and everything. She wants to live her life, and she followed living her life. She wants the man of her dreams, which is Park-siroyi, and her mother basically wanted her to go to college, and that's like what every parent usually wants for their children, right? To go to college. She's smart. Hey, go to college, go to a big firm, and everything like that. But instead, she wants success in the form of going after and Park-siroyi, helping him put up this business and making it successful. And that's what she wanted, and she wanted it both. And she's a go-getter girl because she said to her mother in a nice way that, mother, be lonely for a short time. Be lonely for a short time. And she knows that someday her mother will be able to understand. Of course, in the first beginning, when she made her decision, her mom was so furious. But when she became rich and I see company became like this huge publicly traded company, and her mom saw it in the news. Her mom was so proud of her. So, yeah, live your life and don't please others. And that's also what you can learn from Usuwa. Usuwa. So she worked for Jang Dae-hee for so long, and at the beginning, Jang Dae-hee offered her so much stuff. Like, Jang Dae-hee offered her school, scholarship, payment, support, basically for her whole life. And she thought in the beginning that there would be an exchange, which is to help him cover up for his son's crime. But instead, yeah, he didn't directly. Jang Dae-hee, this is what all the powerful yet manipulative, not everyone who's powerful is manipulative, but for those who are powerful and also manipulative, this is what they do. Some, in my observation, they don't ask directly for an exchange when they give you a favor, but it's practically Jang Dae-hee in his later stages of his life when he's about to die. He also admitted it to Usuwa that practically he was taming her to behave the way he wants. That's how much he manipulated Usuwa, and he did that by supporting her. And all these, because Jang Dae-hee and Park-siroyi are basically enemies. So Usuwa, the childhood friend of Park-siroyi, who's the big time crush of Park-siroyi, Usuwa had to do a lot of hurtful things, not only to Park-siroyi, but to Park-siroyi's business because of Jang Dae-hee order to Usuwa, and Jang Dae-hee was Usuwa's boss. So yeah, and he admitted that I'm practically controlling you, making you docile, and yeah, I mean, in the later stages of Usuwa's life, she realized that, and good for her, girl, good for you. She became the whistleblower to Jang Dae-hee's business, Janga Company, and eventually, yeah, she really, what do you call this? She lived her own life, but it was too late because eventually, as much as Park-siroyi resisted it, he was able to fall in love with what do you call this? Jo Yi-seo. He fell in love with her, even though he resisted it so much. That's so funny. Anyways, that's another lesson, guys, you can learn. In life coaching, you know what they said: the more you resist, the more it persists. So it's like 4 years, or maybe more than 4 years, that Park-siroyi really rejected the idea of it's so hard to pronounce these names. Jo Yi-seo, Jo Yi-seo's love for Park-siroyi, but because he kept rejecting it so much, he rejected it and rejected it and rejected it and rejected it. Eventually, he fell in love to Yoseo. He fell in love so much that he almost had to give his life for her. That's how powerful men's love are for women. Anyways, so funny how much he resisted and broke that girl's heart. But eventually, they ended up being together. Another one, guys. This is a lesson that you can learn as parents if you're a parent. Jang Dae-hee, he's very successful. He was from a really, really poor guy to the successful CEO who's worth 200 billion won. His company, Janga Company. I'm so focused into this movie. I know all the details. But he said that the hardest thing is to raise your own kid. And Jang Gyun-won, his oldest son, he was so, what do you call it? He did a lot of crime in the movie. He was so, what do you call this? Violent also. He was very violent. But it was all because he was controlled by his father. I remember one time in Ateneo, there was this very viral post where there was this kid who was bullying another kid. And that those kinds of posts online, especially here in the Philippines, a lot of parents are gonna be like, it's gonna be the hot topic for a few weeks. And it was a hot topic that I talked about it to my life coach mentor. I was like, I wasn't really during that time, honestly, I was kind of judging the kid, basically saying, why is the kid like that? And his answer to me was basically, most likely na-control yan ng parents niya. And I'm like, at that time, I really wasn't, I was a bit skeptical. Like, how can a parent's upbringing really cause that for the kid to be violent and to become a bully? But really, the more I watch this movie, the more I know na there's a big contribution of parents to the behavior of the children. And as much as I don't want to blame them, there was even an argument one time with this one person. They were arguing, but I have my own opinions and I was keeping it to myself. There's two parents that I was in this community, and they were arguing about how parents' upbringing affect the children. But in this movie, I really saw it that, Jang Dae-hee, he was really controlling his kid. It wasn't a direct control, it was an indirect control, but he was, okay, maybe the right word is manipulating. He was kind of manipulating his son from a very young age. And because of that, it started from small bullying, pouring of milk, to, becoming violent, to even doing a crime and killing livestock, and to eventually, like, outright attempted murder. And it all started from just one small bullying incident when he was a kid. And it was because practically Jang Dae-hee was manipulating his son to kind of become violent in a sense and to not have conscience from the beginning of the movie. So watch it, guys. I didn't give it in full detail, but you'll see it. You'll really see it if you watch the Itaewon Class. So yeah, it's really hard to raise a kid, but at the same time, as parents, really watch Itaewon Class and see how Mr. Park's parenting style is different from Jang Dae-hee's parenting style. That makes the difference. Imagine yung parenting style ni Mr. Park. He was just a regular employee, but his parenting style was so effective. His son was a middle school dropout. He didn't finish college, and he became so successful that he surpassed what Jang Gae-won was able to accomplish in his life. And yet Jang Gae-won had everything, and he was in the best school, good college, and everything like that. He was more successful than those people who had a lot of resources and went to college. And that's because of the qualities that Park-siroyi had. So another one that I learned in the Itaewon Class is what Ma-yeon-hee is to accept yourself. So in the movie, what's this guy's name? Jang Gae-won's brother, half-brother, or whatever you want to call it. Jang Gae-won's brother, what's his name? Jang Geun-soo. Okay, Jang Geun-soo. Basically, he reported that his former friend, Ma Yeon-hee, or friend, was a transgender. And because of that, his intention was to, to win the reality show. And Ma Yeon-hee was very sad, of course, but she decided, because of the diamond poem that Yoseoi shared to her, she decided to accept herself and to become a diamond, to become a rock, meaning to be firm and to be strong. And because of that, she learned to accept herself. She learned to accept herself so much that she even publicized on the TV show, and she said, "I am a transgender." And she was so proud of it. She accepted herself. And that's probably the most liberating thing that any transgender could do. So yeah, no matter what's your background, guys, accept yourself. Accept yourself. Be true to yourself. You don't have to be anyone. Every one of you is already perfect. All you have to do is accept yourself. And This is one thing that I learned. If you guys are business owners, this is what you can learn. No pride. So in this movie, of course, it's all about pride, right? I mean, Park-siroyi, why did he want so much to put down Jenga company's business? Because he has a lot of pride within himself. I wanted to put Jenga company's business down because he has this pride that, I'm going to be better than you. I'm going to be better than you. You killed my... And then you guys didn't take responsibility for it. You guys are like this. It was all unjust. And I mean, everyone has pride. Everyone has ego. It's part of human nature. It's part of human psychology. But yes, if you're a business person, you are responsible for your employees. You're responsible for their well-being. And there was this one time that the grandmother, the rich grandmother, I don't know what's her name, Mrs. What's her name? I'm looking at the names of the characters. Yeah, I don't know her name, but the rich grandmother. Yeah, so the rich grandmother, basically, she said to Park-siroyi that he'd rather have his pride and allow his employees to suffer than to swallow his pride and to just, accept the offer that she was giving. So yeah, there I'll share it to you guys later for businessmen. I had this friend who told me that businesses can really perform well, and businesses could really exceed other businesses. Basically, yung nangyari dun sa movie, sa series, Itaewon Class, Dan Bam ba tawag doon? Yeah. Dan Bam is so small. Jenga company is so big. Dan Bam is like yung isang restaurant dyan sa labas na hindi kilala ng kahit sinong restaurant. That's Dan Bam. Dan Bam is the restaurant. It's just there in the street. Only nobody knows it. And Jenga company is like Jollibee food groups owning this conglomerate of food companies. That's how big Jenga company is. Bigger than Jollibee. Well, probably, like, more or less. Parang Jollibee. Has international, ganyan. So much stakeholders and all that. That's Jollibee, Jenga company. And Danbam is this unknown karinderya in the middle when they started. And I remember this one guy, this one friend, he said to me that, businesses can really perform well even if they don't have a lot of resources, if you know how to, depending on the character of the business owner, depending on his leadership, he can really improve the business so much that he can surpass those big businesses. And that's basically what happened in Itaewon Class. Sobrang galing na manager and business owner ni Park-siroyi. He was leading by example to his employees, And whenever there's a fight between them, whenever there's something that he had to deal with, he gathers them. He trusts all of his employees. He gathers them all, and like for example, there's this one instance that I guess parang in the culture, in that situation, not everyone accepted Yoonhee's being what do you call this? Being a bisexual, or yeah. So parang in the movie, what Park-siroyi did was he really accepted Yoonhee, and basically he grouped everyone, his employees, and then he asked them, do you guys have a problem with her becoming a bisexual? And basically they said no. Or maybe naging halata na there's just one person who doesn't, but eventually everyone came to accept it. Everyone came to accept Eunice being bisexual. And that's because there's a good communication between them. And that's because he was able to make this culture that they're a family. And Park-siroyi, he's really a good manager. For example, let's say your employee, there's one problem with an employee. Ito yung difference. Let's compare the difference of Jang Dae-hee's business, how he handles people, different than Park-siroyi. Okay, so in the beginning of the movie, as the series, Yoon-yi, she was the chef, she was the cook, the danbam. She cooked very not so well. She cooked foods that didn't taste that good. So what they did was Park Saroyi doubled her salary, and he didn't keep it a secret. He said it in front of everyone, and he said, "If you want to work, do you enjoy working here?" And then she said yes, and then he said, "If you want to keep working here, if you really enjoy, no, actually what he said was, if you enjoy working here, then I want you to work hard to improve your cooking." And that's what she did. And that's what she did, Yoon Yi. And Yosyoi helped her by giving her a lot of feedback. And eventually she became such a good cook that she even beat the cook of Janga Company 3 times in the cooking show. And two, time, 2 times that they got beaten by Yoon Yi, um, parang Jang Dae-hee, his company was using threatening. Parang he's like telling his son that, hey, if Mr. what's his name, the chef, their chef, isn't able to cook well, then it's your responsibility. It will be your fault, and he would lose his job. It's more of threatening, parang ganon. And that's what his son also did to their chef. He threatened them. He said, "Oh, look at you. The previously after you losing to Danbam, you were signing autographs and you spending your time signing autographs. You didn't have time to prepare and all that." And then, parang he also said one sentence, and it was kind of indirectly threatening the chef by threatening him that he would lose his job if he didn't win a competition. So that's the difference. The other company that eventually collapsed used a lot of threatening, and the one company that eventually bought the big company, the huge company, not just big company, that conglomerate, they basically just encourage each other. They just encourage each other. They had no blaming and all that whatsoever. And it's getting long. The video is like 32 minutes long already. I want to share with you guys one of the most important things in this movie. Okay, revenge as motivation. Hard life equals sleepless nights. So in the series, the whole series, Park Seo-ye's main main motivation, main driving force, main fuel to put down Django Company was his revenge. He wanted to put revenge, he wanted to end Django Company because of all the injustices they did. And yeah, eventually he reached his goal. But when he almost, okay, I don't want to tell the story so much, but he learned in the end of the movie that revenge is like, it caused him to make a life that wasn't live a life that wasn't really worth it. I'm not saying that it wasn't worth it that he achieved all those achievements, but because he used revenge as a motivation, and that's kind of a negative fuel, right? Because he used it so much, he was not really happy most of his life. Yes, he achieved a lot, but he wasn't intrinsically happy. You can achieve a lot of things too with positive motivation, not revenge. Revenge, you shouldn't use this as your fuel. You shall not use this as your fuel because it will cause you to live a life full of heaviness, full of, basically it's not a peaceful one. So, yun. So, what did I learn from, don't use revenge as motivation. Take out your pride. If you're a boss, accept yourself. Yoon-yi. Jang Gae-won, he was controlled by his father. So if you're a parent, never control your children, never manipulate them, but instead support them. And that's what Mr. Park did to his son. park-siroyi, and park-siroyi became a successful person. Be firm with what you want. Don't give up just because there are hindrances to what you want. Stop overthinking and follow your gut. Fear nothing. As much as all those detractors are trying to discourage you and trying to put you down, fear nothing and keep going. Have a plan and stick to it. And clarity, it's so important. And live your life. Do not please others. So yeah, those are the things that I learned from Itaewon Class. If you haven't watched the movie, I'm sorry. But please do watch it. It's so nice. It's a really nice movie, guys. It's a really nice series. So yun. What do you call it? 감사합니다 and ANYEONG is hi, right? How do you say goodbye? I don't know. Basta, 감사합니다.